It's been 2 months since Ronaldo returned to Manchester United. And personally, I don't think I've seen anything that suggests that the move was nothing but a PR move on both ends. You had Ronaldo coming from Juventus after a reasonably successful time in Italy, but nothing crazy, nothing to really write home about. I'm sure Ronaldo, even with his 100 goals for Juventus, wouldn't figure in the club's top 20, 30 players of all time. But you had Ronaldo coming off the back of his time in Italy, and then you have Manchester United seeking to propel themselves from second place last year and that Europa League final loss to, potentially challenging for the league and, a major trophy in general. So there was all this hype, all this fanfare, all of this, how many goals is Ronaldo gonna get? How will Solskjaer fit him into the team? How are they gonna integrate this exciting attack? And, such along those lines. But we find ourselves here in the middle of October with Ronaldo having been pretty useful to the team, I must say, as far as scoring goals, but United seem to have gotten worse as a collective. And the simple fact is that Ronaldo and Solskjaer are two things that were never meant to be mixed together. They're two entities that do not mesh well. And I'll explain why. I think it's as simple as daylight that Ronaldo is someone who has done nothing for Solskjaer except raise expectations. And that's not a bad thing at a big club. But as I've said in previous videos, Solskjaer does not strike me, or rather has not struck me, as a manager who is capable and well equipped to run a big club. And the arrival of Ronaldo has simply not just raised expectations, but has turned the finger pointing towards Solskjaer. Because when you look at last season, there were different elements that could be pointed at to suggest that, okay, maybe Solskjaer is taking us in the right direction, but maybe if he gets this, and maybe if he's lucky enough to have this player develop in this way, then you have a complete team. With the addition of Ronaldo, Manchester United have added a player that is capable of scoring somewhere around a goal per game, which puts you in a very advantageous position, obviously. But he's also come in with experience and that winning mentality that in many ways you could say Solskjaer doesn't have, despite being a successful player. In a managerial role, he was successful in Norway, but at the level that he is at now, he's an unknown. He's an unknown quantity. And Ronaldo, with his stature, with his ability, has put fire underneath Solskjaer to say that if you're not capable of doing something with Ronaldo in your team, plus all the other signings that were brought in to round out this team and really take the team to the next level, take the club to the next level, then questions need to start being asked about you. Questions need to be asked about your capabilities as a manager. And that brings me on to my next point. Questions. What questions are there around Solskjaer? What are the questions around Solskjaer? My main question around Solskjaer is he capable of doing anything more than what the resources at hand would suggest that he should be able to do? And by that, I mean, I've always seen Solskjaer as what I would describe as a mirror manager or a reflection manager. Very good actually, at reflecting exactly what the team that he's in charge of can do and playing them not necessarily to the best of their abilities, but ensuring that those players don't underperform, given that there's a past benchmark of their quality and their abilities, their limitations. But beyond that, I don't see Solskjaer as a manager who can elevate players anywhere beyond 5 to 10% above their natural ability. And that is evidenced by the fact that of all the players that have played under Solskjaer, you cannot really point to many that have exponentially improved their game. There's no player that you would say Solskjaer has improved, and if Solskjaer was to leave the club, this player's development would be ruined. You could say that for Greenwood, but as far as I'm concerned, Greenwood is a superstar in the making, regardless of who his manager is. So I don't think he's a good example to point to Solskjaer's actual managerial abilities. I think the reality is that without the best squad in the league, you cannot expect Solskjaer to win the league. Without the best squad in Europe, you cannot expect Solskjaer to win the Champions League. Because you look at Manchester United and on paper, or let me say on FIFA, because on paper really refers to recent form. On FIFA, let's say, they have a reasonably good squad, and the only real glaring weaknesses are in midfield. And when you consider that, you would say, all right, if it was Tuchel, if it was Guardiola, if it was Simeone, if it was Klopp, if it was any of these managers that are known for getting the most out of their players and elevating their players' games and making their players play beyond their perceived ability or their natural ability, then it wouldn't be unreasonable to expect that they could do something with the resources at hand, even if they aren't the cream of the crop. But in the case of Solskjaer, it's very obvious that he cannot take that team, as evidenced by his 3 years at the club, he cannot take this Manchester United team beyond where they would be expected to finish or what they would be expected to do. The reality is, and most Manchester United fans will agree with this and will tell you this, Manchester United does not have a good midfield. And the addition of Ronaldo, which I will die on the hill that it was a PR move, the addition of Ronaldo will not improve or alleviate the fact that their midfield is poor, and if it's not poor, it's definitely not up to the standard of the teams that they seek to compete with. Just to give you a metaphor, it's like if you've ever built a PC, if you have a good graphics card and you have decent RAM but a very, very poor CPU, adding 2 times as much RAM, 3 times as much RAM will not improve the computer. Beyond a certain point, you're just not even getting diminishing returns. You're not doing anything. Your CPU is basically being held back by the weakness in that one particular area. And I think it's definitely partly to blame on Solskjaer because he's been applauded for how he's built the squad and how he's revamped the squad. But if you fail to address an issue, which even for me, as someone who does not support Manchester United, if I was able to identify that problem, then the manager of the club definitely should be able to see that the midfield is below standard and is worth improving, is worth investing money in that part of the field and, foregoing signing someone like Ronaldo. Finally, the matter of the fact is Ronaldo and Solskjaer's styles of play do not go together. They just don't mix. On one hand, you have Ronaldo at 36 years old, who's still a good player, but he's definitely not the player he used to be. That is without a doubt. That's a fact. And on the other hand, you have Solskjaer, who for the most part seeks to play a counter-attacking game. And while that's possible with Ronaldo in spurts, Ronaldo is not the 25, 24-year-old Ronaldo that was able to go up and down the wing and was comfortable carrying the ball up and, beating a couple of players, taking on a shot. He's not that guy anymore. And that's where someone like Mason Greenwood is outshining Ronaldo today, because even though he's still raw in many aspects, he's got that raw athleticism and that energy that, you have with youth. Ronaldo in his current state is really good and really reliable at scoring goals and at being a threat in the box. I don't think you could ever take that away from him. But apart from that, I struggle to see how having Ronaldo in your team is something that outweighs having a fully balanced 11, because Ronaldo does not press. I think it was most evident in Manchester United's loss against Young Boys in the Champions League when Manchester United actually went down to 10 men. But with Ronaldo playing in attack, basically playing as a lone striker, and his lack of mobility really made United look like they were actually playing with 9 men, because they were basically camped in their own box for most of that second half. And I think that's the issue with Ronaldo is if you want him to play at center forward, you're not going to have a focal point that is going to do what you'd expect of your modern day number 9, except for finishing, of which he's very good at. But I don't think that encompasses everything that you want out of your striker at a top club, because as far as I can see, Ronaldo's build-up play is nothing impressive. It's not bad or anything, but I wouldn't say it's out of this world. His hold-up play, I would say, is next to non-existent. He's very good at turning low threat situations into ones of actual danger, so I have to give him that. But apart from that, I don't see any of Ronaldo's qualities being compatible with what Solskjaer seeks to do or the way Solskjaer has shown that he would like to play. I remember when Solskjaer first came in after Mourinho was sacked, and the person that was scapegoated for the reason that Manchester United were performing poorly was Lukaku. And it basically revolved around the fact that he was a lamppost and he couldn't press, he wasn't mobile enough to play the role that you'd expect from a modern striker at a top football club. And I think fast forward 3 years now, we see that Ronaldo has a lot of the same qualities and a lot of the same issues. But now Manchester United and Solskjaer in particular do not have the luxury of having a throwaway season or a throwaway half season where they can recuperate and figure things out. The unfortunate reality is Solskjaer is under pressure, and United by extension are under pressure to deliver, because the inability to win a trophy for 2 years for a club like United isn't good. But now they'll be going on 5 years, if I'm not wrong, if they don't win a trophy this season. But from what I've seen this season, I find it very hard to believe that United are going to do anything of substance unless they sack Solskjaer and bring in someone more capable or more compatible with the players at hand, or if Solskjaer has a major rethink in the way that he approaches, the way he sets up his team, and things move on from there. Otherwise, I really just don't see it.